your primary focus are VA loans.
Yeah. 2020 and 2021 was
hot.
Gold rush, right? My first year I did 28 or 30 loans that I brought to the new company that I worked for, and it was great.
What is a VA loan and how does somebody qualify for one?
The VA loan benefit is given to veterans who have honorable discharge, general discharge, and allows them to purchase a home with zero money down at a better rate normally than a conventional loan.
Now, let's say somebody has a disability. What happens when they have a disability and that shows on their discharge?
Great question. And
in life, there's a blueprint for everything. There's no need to start over. Hear from industry leaders, those at the top of their fitness journey, and real estate gurus. They tell you exactly how they did it. All you have to do is listen, learn, and execute. This is The Blueprint with Brad Rice.
All right, everybody, we're back to another edition of The Blueprint. This time it's a special edition, our loan officer spotlight for Amerifund. And we are super lucky today to have John Wallace drive down to see us from the state of Washington to Southern California. And he had a hell of a drive. He enjoyed it, but we're so happy to have him here today. We're going to talk about all things VA. We're going to talk about the hospitality business that John grew up in, what makes him really consumer and customer centric, and just learn a little bit about him and how he benefits our veterans today, both in service and in helping them with their mortgage loans. So, John, welcome today, man.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah.
It's great to be here.
It is. It's so great to see you. You know, we've met in person before, and that was already, I think, like 2 years ago.
2 years ago
Yeah.
in March, I think.
In March, and we're going in March again. We're going to go to see the campus at in Michigan, UWM's giant campus there.
Yeah, in Pontiac.
Yeah, in Pontiac, Michigan.
Yeah.
And it was great to meet you the first time in person. Of course, we stay in touch and we talk all the time. We see you on video, but nothing beats a big bear hug from a guy like you. So
There you go.
Yeah, so it's so great to have you back here today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, you know what I want to start with is letting people get to know a little bit about John. You know, where you were raised, you know, the fact that you were in this historic hotel being raised and you learned from your father about hospitality and service and how that kind of carried you through your entire life. But, you know, you mentioned New Hampshire. Is that where you were born?
I was born in Boston.
Okay.
And lived outside of Boston until I was 14 or so. And then my parents bought a 200-year-old inn in southwestern New Hampshire in Fitzwilliam, New Hampshire.
Wow. Okay, so it was 200 years old back then.
Yeah.
Right? So it's actually,
Yeah,
is it still around?
1796. It is, I believe it's closed right now.
Okay, but the structure still exists.
The structure is still there.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Have you been back to visit?
Not in a while.
Okay.
Not in a while.
So tell me about that, that experience as a kid. You lived in the inn that your parents were? Okay, so tell me about that experience.
Yeah, we had like an annex on the back of the inn.
Okay.
Where my sister and I and my parents lived. And we grew up working at the inn after school and on the weekends, making a whole $2 an hour, and yeah.
So all right. So I imagine this because I've seen. I can't remember the name of the show, but there's a show about like
Newhart show.
It was that was a sitcom, but there's a documentary show. I don't know if it still airs or not, but about hotels and about these investors going in, buying these old hotels, revamping them, and usually the previous owners were families where the family lived there and they all worked to support the hotel. But over time, they didn't have the money to really fix it up, and the show was about that. So I can kind of picture your life back then because the documentary of these hotels was these kids that would be, cleaning the rooms, making up the rooms, helping with the laundry, maybe fixing plumbing things that are going on.
Everything.
Is that all? You did all of that.
Cleaning toilets, washing dishes, Dad said, if you know how to do every job in the inn, no one can ever hold you over a barrel.
Yeah.
And it was the truth. We lost a chef 3 days before, excuse me, 3 days before Thanksgiving, 400 reservations. And I took it over, and it went as smoothly as silk.
How old were you?
Oh, at that time, that was after I got out of the service. I was probably 26, 25,
Okay.
26.
You just jumped in and handled business.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
And
My
what
privilege.
What branch did you serve in?
Army.
You were in Army. All
Army
right.
medic.
Very good. Oh wow, I didn't know that. A medic.
Yeah.
Okay. That actually says a lot because you really are you care for people, and that comes from that as well. All right. So back to the hotel though.
Yeah.
So you grew up there. Did you go to college?
For a year and a half.
Okay.
I went for music performance,
Huh.
and I wasn't. A degree in music performance doesn't give you anything. You either perform or you don't perform.
Right.
And I was wasting my dad's money and my time, and I quit after the third semester.
Is that when you went into the service?
Well, yeah. Dad said, you can live at home, son, as long as you work full-time, either here or for somebody else. And I worked in a textile mill and ended up quitting. And I didn't realize my father was standing right behind me. And he goes, well, what you going to do now, son? Mm-hmm. And I, right out of the dark place, I said, well, I was thinking about joining the Army, Dad. And he just was over the moon happy. That was a Thursday, and I was in basic training the next Monday.
Wow. Now, did your dad serve as well?
Yes, he did. He was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge in Belgium.
Isn't that something?
1944.
Wow.
Right around Christmas. Yeah.
So what was his? How was he wounded?
A grenade, a German grenade.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Took out his best friend. He woke up 3 weeks later in England. His family didn't know if he was alive or captured or what.
Yeah, there's no communication back then.
Well,
telegram.
Loose lips sink ships.
Yeah.
So,
oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so
yeah.
I mean, you come from a long line of service, and obviously your dad came back from serving, and then this hotel, which you said 400 reservations. How many units was this hotel?
30 guest rooms, 3 dining rooms, an old English style pub.
Okay.
Some sitting rooms. Yeah.
God, that sounds neat.
Yeah.
That sounds really neat. Okay. So you grew up there, you learned about service, you went to you serve in the Army, you learned about service there. By the way, what did you do in the Army? You were a medic, you said?
I was a medic.
And were you a field medic or
Yes.
hospital?
Well,
okay.
2 designations. One was combat medic, and the other was medical specialist.
Okay. All right. Served for how long?
3 years.
3 years. Came back. Went back to the hotel.
Yes.
Because you mentioned you had
Yep.
to pick up where the chef left
81.
off. And where'd you go from there?
I took over the inn in 87 when my dad passed away. Was working with 8 family members from my little sister to my grandmother.
Okay.
And after 2 years of that, my then wife and I moved. And we moved to Portland, Oregon.
Okay. Yeah, because the winters in New Hampshire are pretty rough, aren't they?
They're tough.
And if you're taking care of the hotel and you're also taking care of the grounds of the hotel,
Oh,
and that
yeah.
sort of thing, that's some real work.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had 7 walks to shovel every time.
Oh
it
my
snowed.
goodness. So your wife then said, John, enough. We gotta go somewhere else. Let's head to the West Coast.
Yep.
And you went to Oregon.
Yes.
Where in Oregon?
Portland.
Okay, got it. And how long were you there for?
In Portland for 4 years, and then we moved across the river to Vancouver.
Okay. And then you've been in Washington ever since?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting into the mortgage business?
I first did it through Primerica.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people did back then.
And I did mortgages. I was doing 2 or 3 a week.
Yeah.
For Primerica, not making a lot of money doing it. I wasn't a big recruiter, and they're big on recruiting.
Yeah. That's kind of a multi-level organization.
Yes,
Sure.
it is. It is. And that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
24 years ago. I did that for 2 years. Got into the gourmet food business. Was in the gourmet food business for 15 years, and left when they went out of business during COVID.
So wait, drill down into that for a second, because I
Sure.
don't really understand what that means, being in the gourmet food business.
Sure.
When I hear that, I picture somebody at a high-end restaurant with a napkin bib on, eating some high-end food. But that's not what you did. I mean, maybe you did that occasionally.
I sold exotic ingredients to the greatest chefs all over the United States.
Okay, all right. So that involved traveling?
Some traveling. At one point, I had a sales crew in Las Vegas that I had to go down and work with on a semi-regular basis, and it was an interesting job. I mean, I got to get recipes over the phone from guys you see on the Food Network.
Huh, interesting.
And selling caviar and wild mushrooms and truffles.
Okay, the things you find on high-end menus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you actually didn't stay in the mortgage business. You were in it with Primerica, but then you got into gourmet foods.
Yep.
And then you say they shut down during COVID?
Yep.
And that's when you decided to get back into mortgage?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And the timing was great because 2020 and 2021 for the mortgage business was
hot.
Gold rush.
Yes.
Right? My first year I did 28 or 30 loans that I brought to the new company that I worked for, and it was great.
Yeah, definitely. That was quite a bit different than the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you joined us, if I remember correctly, sometime in 2022 or end of 22 or beginning of 23.
I think it was early in 23.
Yeah. Okay. And by the way, John's been absolutely amazing. He's a team player. He's very helpful. He's communicative. His clients love it. There's not a loan that you close that you don't get a 5-star review on. You know, people love you. And it's primarily because you give a very high level of service. And so now I understand it really came from your upbringing. It came from being in the hospitality business, from being a medic. But you also really are invested and help out at the American Legion.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. For people that don't know what the American Legion is, what is the American Legion? Are you a tech investor looking to shape the future of real estate? HomePie is the #1 for sale by owner marketplace, and we are revolutionizing the way homes are bought and sold. I'd love to hear from you. Just email invest@homepie.com and let's chat. Now back to the show.
The American Legion is an organization that serves veterans, basically put.
Okay, and in what service?
In all the services, Army, Navy, Marine, Coast Guard, Space Force.
Okay.
At our particular post, we provide meals and a bar and meeting rooms. We refer people for services that they need for disabilities, housing, whatever our members need. We find something to help them.
Awesome.
And I'm the commander, which means I answer to everyone.
Yes.
At the post.
Yeah.
It's a lofty title, and I'm everyone's servant at the post, which pleases me.
Yeah. No, I see you when you do posts online and so forth. It does please you, and it comes through there. For people that know of all these kind of services that are out there for veterans, how do you define the difference between the American Legion and the VFW?
They're very closely related. As a matter of fact, we honor VFW memberships to be able to come into our American Legion and vice versa. VFW stands for Veterans of Foreign Wars. They no longer require that veterans have served in wartime, but that you do need to be a veteran to some extent.
So very similar in service, in the way that you guys operate in helping veterans. And
Yep.
Okay. Let's kind of divert the energy into how you help veterans today besides the American Legion. Your primary focus are VA loans.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to get into that and have you kind of explain to people what is a VA loan and how does somebody qualify for one?
Excellent question. The VA loan benefit is given to veterans who have honorable discharge, general discharge, and allows them to purchase a home with zero money down at a better rate normally than a conventional loan. Because the Congress decided that veterans deserve a chance to build generational wealth through owning a home and made it easy for them.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to qualify for a VA loan as far as the guidelines are concerned than even FHA loans and certainly conventional loans and others. The benefit, like you said, no down payment requirement on a purchase.
Right.
But there's other benefits. Because you're putting zero down, that's a very high loan to value, meaning that the loan amount is greater than, obviously, 80% of the value of the property, whereas on a conventional loan, you would have to pay for private mortgage insurance.
Yes.
On an FHA loan, you have to pay for mortgage insurance. It's not private.
And upfront.
It's government and upfront as well. Very costly and costly monthly. But on a VA loan, you don't have to. Right.
It's gone. There's the government guarantees basically 25% of the loan, so that covers the lender's
risk,
worries about whether or not it's going to be a good loan.
Yeah.
And as a result, the veteran gets to have the same benefit as people, for example, doing the FHA loan without all the extra cost.
Yes.
Now there is an upfront cost, which is the funding fee, and the funding fee is used to offset the cost of the taxpayer for that 25% that the government is guaranteeing.
Yes. So in other words, the government is guaranteeing the default risk for lenders. So lenders can lend under the VA guidelines and know that they are protected if there was default through the VA administration, the Veteran Administration, and the government. But this funding fee requirement, the VA funding fee, there are some variables to that, aren't there?
Yep.
If somebody's going to buy their first home using a VA loan and they don't have any disability, what's the VA funding fee on that?
2.3%.
Okay. And if somebody's buying their second home or their subsequent home and they don't have a disability, what's the funding fee on that?
3.6%.
All right. Now, let's say somebody has a disability. What happens when they have a disability and that shows on their discharge?
Well, for it to make a difference in the funding fee, it has to be a service-related disability.
Mm-hmm.
Disability after you get out doesn't count.
Right.
But if you have a service-related disability, the funding fee goes away.
Now, there's partial disabilities too, correct?
Yes.
So it could be a reduced funding fee, or like you said,
nope, it's exempt.
It entirely exempt. Not a partial disability is exempt as well.
Absolutely. I have a 10% service-related disability. That's the lowest
threshold.
Yep, 10%. I get full exemption from funding fee.
Right on. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fantastic. So, for those that have served out there, those are the veterans, and they haven't bought a home yet, why should they look at getting a VA loan other than the low down payment ability if there's a funding fee that is associated with it, and that funding fee is very similar to, say, upfront MI for an FHA loan?
Well, the funding fee can be rolled into the loan.
Bingo.
And unlike other types of loans, that funding fee doesn't have to come out of their pocket.
Yeah.
They can also get seller concessions to pay for some of their closing costs.
Yeah.
Now, FHA gives up to 6% seller's concessions. VA only 4%, but there's a reason for that, because the Veterans Administration is concerned that builders will give big concessions to put somebody in a house that maybe they necessarily can't afford.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Veterans Administration does everything they can to protect the veteran in this benefit.
That makes sense.
And as a result, VA loans in veterans are a lower risk than any other category of loan.
Lowest default rate of all loans.
Yep.
That's right. What another benefit is there is no monthly mortgage insurance payment.
That's correct.
Right. So you have the low down payment.
No MI.
And no MI.
Yep.
And no monthly MI.
And no upfront.
So your monthly payments are less.
Yep.
That's right. All right. Well, that's great. So these are great loans. If somebody, let's say, has a property they bought using their VA benefits and they're ready to move up, they're growing a family, but they've got this low interest rate loan on their property they don't want to give up, how do they buy another house using their VA benefits?
Great question. And it takes some math. So let's say that the conventional loan limit right now is $806,200. They have used up $400,000 on their first purchase. Let's say they're even keeping the first purchase and they're going to turn that primary residence into a rental property. What's left is another $400,000, $2,600 to make now a subsequent purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So the benefit is they can have multiple properties, and there's all kinds of properties you can buy with a VA loan. You can buy multi-unit properties, you can buy condos, you can buy manufactured homes. It's the only loan that will allow you to buy a manufactured home that has been moved from its original foundation.
Oh, that's a very unique guideline.
It is. It has to be on a permanent foundation.
But it could have been moved where
it
others
could have been moved. No one else is
that.
doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So a veteran has a limit to their eligibility.
Correct.
And even with multiple properties, as long as they don't exceed that limit, they can have multiple properties with it.
That's correct.
Okay, got it. And so that's when you said you have to do the math. How do you determine that? How do you know what their limit is?
Where they're buying the property has the conventional loan limit. So, for example, if they're buying a property in Beverly Hills, the conventional loan limit is quite a bit higher than that $800,000.
Mm-hmm.
So the benefit is based on the purchase of the property in the present zip code.
Got it. That's really good. So yeah, I think that's a misnomer. A lot of people think that you can only have one VA loan at a time, and that's not the case.
No.
And so if they're being told that by their current lender, they need to find somebody who really specializes in VA loans, that knows the intricacies. Is there a loan limit to VA loans?
I'd say if you're considering joining the Amerifund team, it's a really good idea.
We as processors at Amerifund Home Loans support the loan officers in every aspect of the loan once it comes into processing because we want them out there marketing themselves and originating more loans and supporting more borrowers.
Competitive commission plans are a given, and powerful technology is expected, but what truly sets us apart is our culture. We've built a solid support system for our loan officers. If you're interested in joining the Amerifund team, go to amerifund.com/careers.
No.
None at all.
No.
So you can buy a $3 million home.
Yep.
How does that work?
Well, let's say the loan limit for that area is $1 million. And the veteran hasn't used his benefit, has not used his benefit yet. So there's a difference in the price of the $3 million home and the loan limit of $2 million. So you're thinking, oh, he's got to come up with $2 million to buy this house. But no, because the government needs, or the lender needs that 25% guarantee. So it's going to be 25% of $2 million, not $2 million. So it's, if the borrower comes up with $500,000, he can buy that home for $3 million under VA. Better rates, doesn't have to put down a bunch of money, and he will actually reduce his funding fee by putting money down on the home. If it's over 5%, not yet 10%, then the funding fee is reduced to 1.5% of the loan
savings.
Of the loan amount. Yes.
Yeah.
And if it's 10% or more, then it's reduced to 1.25% instead of 2.3 or 3.6% on the funding fee.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Look, I would venture to say most people don't know this. They
Yeah.
don't know that
Oh, yeah.
you can buy a home for that much using your VA benefits or how it works. That knowledge is power.
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
people like you that have studied and do a lot of VA loans and care about our veterans that are bringing this benefit to people that really deserve it. You know, they have put themselves at risk for our country, and they deserve to have these chances. So I think that's great. I want to also talk about refinancing because there's another benefit to VA loans, and that is the ability to have a very easy refinance. Isn't that correct?
That is correct.
How does it work?
Now, what you're talking about is the interest rate reduction refinance loan, or the EARL. And the EARL is a refinance that is not cash out. It's just to get a better rate and or decreased term. It has to show benefit to the veteran in giving this refinance. Now, when they do the EARL, they don't have to go through the income documents. It's a very simple and quick loan to do. And it's also, if they have to pay a funding fee, if they're not service disabled, it's a 0.5% funding fee. So it's a quick loan. It's a simple loan. All they have to do is have been on time in their mortgage payments to the government or to the lender, and they're good to go.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to reiterate, what qualifies you for a VA streamlined refinance, or IRRRL, EARL, is you have to have on-time mortgage payments in the last 12 months.
Yep.
We're not going to be pulling your full credit. It doesn't matter what has happened with your credit. Other than that, it doesn't matter what your credit score is.
Mortgage-only credit.
It doesn't matter what your credit score is. We're not going to do an appraisal, so it doesn't matter what the value is. And we're not going to ask you for income documentation. So it is literally a streamlined refinance to get you either a better rate or shorten your term because, again, you serve the country, so the country is serving you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's a great benefit. You can also get a cash out refinance that's more like a regular VA loan. You could refinance a conventional loan into a VA loan to get cash out as well.
Yeah, so if somebody didn't know that they had their benefits and their mortgage loan officer put them into a conventional loan when they could have had a VA loan, you could refinance into a VA loan.
Yes. And one of the circumstances that I have seen is somebody who receives disability status after they got their first loan. They didn't get a VA loan because they didn't want the funding fee. Now they've got disability status. So they refinance into a VA loan, don't have to pay the funding fee because they're exempt.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. How long does somebody have to serve in the forces to be able to get a VA loan?
The requirement is 180 days of active duty service.
Okay.
Now, if you're active duty, then however long your term is, as long as you have the right discharge. For National Guard or reserves, they may have served 180 days just from doing basic and advanced training. If they go overseas for deployment, that's going to be 9 months to a year normally. So that entitles somebody to a VA loan.
Can somebody get a VA loan if they are still active duty?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. And we know
And
that. We do a lot
same,
of those.
Same benefits.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Awesome. Well, what else do you want to share with people about yourself, John? And, you do a lot to benefit your borrowers. You do a lot to benefit your community. And it shows. I mean, you're just an all-around good guy. People can go online and read the reviews that you've had from all your borrowers. What else do you want people to know about you?
I just really love taking care of people.
Yeah.
It feels good. I did a loan about a year ago. I had to give away most of the commission. But this guy is a young pilot. His wife is a homemaker. They really needed a home for their daughter. And it was my pleasure. I felt so good about it. And they've stayed in touch with me. I guess it's been over 2 years.
Yeah.
They've stayed in touch with me, and that relationship remains solid.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling you do that with all your clients. Can you tell us a story of the toughest loan you ever closed?
My advice for someone selling their home: number 1, do it yourself and save. Number 2, use HomePie.
HomePie makes it easy to buy or sell without an agent. I can list a home in minutes and start receiving offers right away from buyers.
When we discovered that we didn't have to lose $40,000 in agent commission just to upsize to a larger home, it was an obvious choice.
List your home for free at homepie.com. Keep your piece of the pie.
I did one for a divorce. Divorce gets real complicated, and you have to get extra paperwork. You have to get the divorce decree. You have to figure out different ways to account for the income when there's a divorce. And this was for the spouse. This was for the woman in the divorce. And they have to sell their other property, and that took about 4 or 5 months, maybe even 6 months to complete. They're going through a lot.
Yeah.
And when you've got something else you need to ask for, if you don't have that relationship built with them, they freak out every time you call on the phone.
Yeah.
Because they freak out every time anybody calls on the phone. So you just have to kind of hold their hand and explain right at the beginning, this is a complicated loan, and we're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
But just keep in mind that I may have to continue to call you and ask for different things to get toward the goal line.
Well, they say that divorce is the number one most stressful period of time in somebody's life. So if you're going to go through a mortgage at the same time, and many do, you got to have somebody who's very patient.
Yeah.
And you check that mark. I also want to know who can be on a VA loan. Well, what co-borrowers can be on a VA loan?
Well, you can have a couple where only a married couple, where only one of them is a veteran.
Okay. So spouses.
Mm-hmm. You can have a loan for two veterans, and they split the entitlement, or one of them can take the full entitlement, depending on their situation and what they agree to in writing.
So you can partner with another veteran, essentially.
Yep. You can have a VA loan where one is a veteran, they're unmarried, and the other is not. And that includes some different characteristics, like the non-veteran has to come up with half of that 25% guarantee.
Mm-hmm.
So 12.5% needs to go as a down payment from that borrower.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But still, that could be a really great benefit if that's a lot less money than the full amount of a down payment requirement.
Yeah.
And you get the benefits of the no mortgage insurance.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
How about the offspring of a veteran? Any benefits there?
You know, there is for spouse. I don't believe the children of a veteran get any benefit, and that's possibly an exception made for Medal of Honor recipients. I can't answer that.
Okay. I wasn't aware that there was any, but yeah, there may be some exceptions to that, like you said.
There may be.
If a veteran has a home, has their VA loan on it, and they pass, can that VA loan stay on the property?
It depends. Were they married? Is the spouse surviving? If so, absolutely. If they're not married, but the partner is on the loan, absolutely.
Okay.
The VA is going to continue to honor that loan.
Okay, and what if the veteran passes, the spouse is no longer around, so it was just the veteran, and the property is inherited by their heirs? Can they keep the loan on and just keep making the payments?
Good question.
One we might have to look up, huh?
I think, I know what I don't know, and I need to look that up.
Okay, well, I hear a post coming out on that one over the course of the next week.
Yeah.
Do that research and find out. Again, these are things that, there are nooks and crannies of the benefits of having a VA loan, but there's so much to it, and you really have to work with an expert when you're getting a VA loan, not just somebody that does, VA loans, but they're doing so many other things that it's, a very small portion of their business. There's a lot of benefits that people do not get to take advantage of because they're not working with an expert that could have gotten them additional benefits that they weren't aware of. So
I wanted to make a note on the exemption for funding fee. There is another way that you can be exempt from the funding fee.
How's that?
If you've received a Purple Heart.
Oh, okay.
If you've received a Purple Heart or service-related disability, you're exempt from the funding fee.
All right. Yeah. Again, I didn't know that. That's great. I mean, so if you're out there and you received a Purple Heart and you haven't bought your house yet, you really got to consider getting a VA loan, because there is no better loan. And when you waive that funding fee, forget about it. There's no loan that can compare.
I was in contact with a veteran who was doing his loan through somebody else. And the realtor called me because she knows my background in VA loans. And the veteran had a Purple Heart, but his certificate of eligibility did not reflect exempt.
Oh.
The lender that he was working with said, it's not exempt, we're going to have to charge the funding fee.
Okay.
I was able to call the RLC, the Regional Loan Center, and immediately get his COE changed to exempt.
Wow.
Because of his Purple Heart. Now, he dumped that lender. I hadn't heard from him for about 4 or 5 months, and he just called me last week. He's looking for a home. He wants me to do
I love it.
his loan.
Absolutely.
So I'm just like...
What a great service.
Yeah.
That's great. I think the last thing I want to cover is if somebody wants to apply for a VA loan and they're not sure their eligibility, maybe they can't find their DD-214, maybe they lost it. How do you help somebody with that to get the right documentation to apply?
Well, we go back to the COE, the Certificate of Eligibility, and a good VA loan specialist knows how to go in and almost immediately get their certificate of eligibility through a system called LGY. And I did this last night for a guy I spoke to yesterday for the first time. I said, do you have your COE? And he goes, no. I said, well, let's do that. And in 5 minutes, I had it for him.
That's great.
A lot of lenders don't know how to do this.
Yeah. And so the point is that if you're a veteran, you're just not sure, again, talk to an expert like John. He'll walk you through from start to finish, help you get the documentation, help to determine what you qualify for, and take you all the way through and really hold your hand so that you know you're doing the right thing. John, if somebody needs to get a hold of you or wants to get a hold of you, they want to apply with you, how can they reach you?
Well, they can reach me, john.wallace@amerifund.com. I have a cell phone
Put it out there.
I pick up 360, which is Washington State, 360-771-1914.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you guys would not be doing yourself a disservice for any kind of loan, not just VA loans, although John does specialize in that, in reaching out to John if you have needs. You can see he's a plethora of information, and we're going to get that answer on the heirs, right? Keeping that property. But, hey, thanks for driving down and visiting us today. It's been a real pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you in Michigan next month.
So nice seeing everybody.
Yeah,
it really
awesome.
has been nice.
All right. That's the end of this edition of the Blueprint Loan Officer Spotlight Edition. If you feel we brought you value, you liked it, please share, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.